Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi, Marlene.
Good morning, Paul.
It's Tuesday.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
It is our morning after a late show last night. We had our second in our series of Get the Facts, and we've been putting together this program in conjunction with the Ministry of Health and another opportunity to learn some new things about the vaccination and about why people are hesitant.
I know many people look forward to the show on Monday night. We didn't have the previous Monday because of the holiday.
Yeah.
And so I know that a lot of Belizeans were tuned in last night just to get some of the information as they dispel some of the misinformation out there as well. Give us some new information. So it's a good show.
It's a great opportunity for people to be able to ask their questions directly. And I think that was interesting to kind of see the questions that were coming in for both the doctor and the psychologist. And I thought kind of taking the look at the psychology behind the hesitation that people have with new things, it is comforting because I feel that things have become incredibly divisive.
Yeah.
You know, those who are for the vaccine and those who haven't taken it, and then there are those who are completely against it. And this group in the middle who just haven't and are unsure, they're kind of being cast aside as anti-vaxxers. But really, they're going through a normal process of questioning, of trying to weigh their options before they make a move. And having a personal experience from a nurse, no less, who said she waited a few months just to be sure that it was right for her.
This pandemic, in essence, has from the start been a war on information, a war of information, you know, and it's about who gets the information out there and who remains persistent in keeping that information out there. We saw a stint where a group came out and they sought to get their side, their perspectives on the vaccine out there, and that took us by storm. And I think it gave the Ministry of Health a sense of how weighty their responsibility is to ensure that Belizeans get this information, and so to see them collaborating with us to ensure that this information gets out, it's a good thing. And I think that they're on the right path to ensuring that Belizeans get all sides to make that informed decision.
Of course, of course. And you know, I think the WHO even gave it a name. They called it infodemia because there's just so much information coming at us at once.
Exactly.
And trying to process it and decide, you know, one, I always tell people the most important thing is that you have a relevant source.
Yeah.
You know, the internet as a general source is not enough. It has to be a credible source that you get your information from. Someone that you know has proven that whatever research they have, whatever opinion that they've published have been helpful or proven before.
Right, and you have to rely on the facts.
Yeah.
You have to rely on the facts. I think it's important for you as a viewer, you as an interested Belizean, to question, to ask the questions, and not only to question MOH when the show comes on, but when you see other information out there that is countering what the doctors and the scientists are saying, is for you to question that and ask, all right, so where's your source? Where is this information coming from? So that at the end of the day, you do not do yourself an injustice by not getting the information.
And of course, still seeing a number of cases each day, and reported another death of a woman that was in her 30s.
Right.
Very concerning.
Right, it's a nun.
Yes, it
I
is
believe a nun
from the West.
Right.
And you know, she did travel to the United States. The suspicion is that maybe she got it there and came back, but nonetheless, I think it is a reminder. It's mimicking what we have heard in other parts of the world. I remember when India had their their wave a few months ago, and we interviewed some doctors here, and they're saying, listen, we're seeing a different age group that's hospitalized. We're seeing 40-year-olds and 30-year-olds and some 20-year-olds. And when I saw the news over the weekend that a 30-year-old had passed, I said, this is, we've seen this in other places. So I do hope that it reminds people that this can be a very severe disease, and where once we thought that age would be our saving grace if we got infected, that's not so much the case.
We're seeing where countries across the world are getting numerous new waves of infection, in fact, due to the Delta variant. It's a variant that's definitely concerning. I've seen personally where persons have traveled across to the U.S. and came back infected, or in a sense came back and they're infected. So it's spreading seriously across the U.S. I saw one headline that, this is a U.S. headline, but it said that the war is over, in a sense, and that the Delta variant has won.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's an alarming headline. I know, right? But when you look at the numbers in Belize, you have to ask, are we headed down that path?
I hope not. I really
Is that the
not.
direction we're going? And just to stick a plug in there, that there's a protection. We do have a safeguard against this, and that's the vaccine. That's right. We talk about all these restrictions that we have to face, curfew. Nobody hates curfew more than me. I mean, 9 p.m. I have to be in my house. 9 p.m. I just to get my evening started, man. Come on. I know I have work the next day, but all these nuances, these...
Jamaica yesterday just rolled out their new curfews. They're at 7 p.m. and 6 p.m.
Oh, my.
Because of their current wave. So it's not just us.
Right.
And I know that it feels that way, and I know that we've been living under these conditions for over a year, and it's exhausting. But we have to do our part, and we have to keep on. I think for me, it's maintaining an open mind moving forward, that if I do encounter someone who hasn't been vaccinated, engaging in conversations, understanding their reasons is really critical, and helping to direct them to the information that will be helpful.
Definitely, we must have objective conversations, not try to impose our views, because
or
I
just
think
say, I won't talk to you because you don't believe in
it
the
shouldn't be
vaccine.
that. It shouldn't be that. This should not divide us. Vaccinated, unvaccinated. I think we're all here for a common good. And that's to see Belize through this, to see the world, through this, and so.
Well, that is, of course, the topic of the day, and we keep on monitoring as we move forward. But the other conversation I know that has started actually as a result of COVID. Yesterday we had the Minister of Education and his CEO, Diane Mejia, on the show, and the topic of standardized tests came up. So we were talking about the PSE and the BJAT. For those of you who don't know, BJAT is taken in Standard 3.
Right, and that advances you to the higher level in primary school.
And then PSE is in Standard 6, and they confirmed that the children wouldn't be sitting these two standardized tests at this time, and that their consideration moving forward is perhaps that they would not go back to standardized testing. And there have been some mixed reactions. Definitely some kids saying woohoo, and some teachers alike and parents, but some saying, okay, I don't know how I feel about this particular change.
I just wonder where was this discussion when I was in primary school. It was not too in a long distant future. I was actually one of those persons who did very well in my PSC. I'm not good at testing. And I heard the Minister of Youth also share with us yesterday his position on it. We sought to get his position because, of course, it's young persons that are sitting these exams. And he was of the position also that we should do away with standardized testing completely. And he shared his personal experience, stating, one, that if if the academic leaders back in his time were to go on his, I can't remember, BNSE.
It was the BNSE.
I think that's.
Oh my gosh,
oh
Paul,
my,
you just dated us. I took the BNSE.
Oh, see, I'm dating you now. If we were to go on his BNSE results, then he wouldn't have gotten the opportunities that he got at the time. And so he spoke of how these exams place added pressure on students, especially those who are not good at testing.
Yeah.
And I think it was raised in the discussion yesterday, the fact that many times when you step into Standard 6, the first thing they tell you, oh, it was easy. All you have to worry about is prepare for PSE. And that's usually what Standard 6 is all about. Yeah. It's about preparing you for this one exam.
And I think those are some of the perspectives. It's interesting because we've had this conversation with education representatives before, the whole concept of standardized testing, where it was so important before. I think we know more and understand more about how children learn and markers for learning to be able to improve on it. And we do know that children suffer with anxiety. We know that not all children learn in the same way. And so a rethink is something that was perhaps in the making a long time ago, but COVID has kind of pushed us in this direction. Does it mean, and I guess these are questions they'll have to address eventually, that they'll change it to something else, that they'll use a different format, or that they'll remove it and have different assessments that they'll do? BNSE, when I did it, when I was in Standard 6, you know, you spend a lot of time preparing, and it's no different now. It starts from Standard 5, you're all prep work for PSE. Then your parents get you in a summer class if you can afford it to prep for PSE. Then you spend Standard 6 prepping for PSE. And it is important for the child. It's usually very important for the parent. And it's also important for the schools because all the schools love to have that accolade of saying, you know, we had X number of passes or we had the top student. And so there's all this pressure coming down on, let's think about it, an 11, 12, 13-year-old child.
Right, and we've given so much glory. We've highlighted that so much, but look at the facts. I think that for the past few years we've been questioning these results, PSE results in particular. We've been questioning, asking the ministry. All right, we're seeing low grades in math, for example. We're seeing some low results in English. What's happening there? And it seems to have been something that's always been pushed to the side, or an old machine that we've always been trying to rework to figure out how we can get students to perform better and more. It seems as if they're not, and so it's a good
I wonder
good
what
step.
I wonder if parents and teachers will be in alignment with this type of move. Because there's the ministry conversation that's clearly taking place. But I wonder how parents and teachers feel about this. I imagine the children are on board. That's my guess, but I could be wrong. One, less pressure for them. And imagine if you can spend that last year, that very critical formative year, focusing on a wider range of topics other than those that will be covered on PSE.
Look at, I guess, an assessment may have to be done on the assessments that are in place right now during the COVID-19 pandemic over the last 2 years, last year and this year, where students going into high school are concerned. It seems as if they're doing assessments at first form. So an assessment there, let's see how that has been working and if that has been, you know, giving us the results that we're looking for.
And these assessments, I'd imagine, you know, the goal behind them is really to understand the weaknesses or the challenging areas for the children so you can improve on them.
More
not
than
so we can rank them and publicize it.
And rejecting them and blocking them from opportunities.
So I'm really interested to see where this conversation will go because it is a change. Everybody has had some version of an entrance exam. The idea of living in a country where we don't have it can be a big adjustment for people. So I know people were buzzing about that this morning. But we got to get moving into some motivation for today, and that means it's time for Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Your aversion to some people may actually be your response to fear that specific qualities you see in them also exist within you. As much as most of us wish we could exist in harmony with the people we encounter throughout our lives, there will always be individuals we dislike. Some simply rub us the wrong way, while others strike us as deliberately unaware. We may judge others as too mean or abrasive for us to interact with them comfortably. Yet, no person should be deemed a villain because their beliefs, opinions, mannerism, and mode of being are not compatible with your own. You need not embrace the rough traits they have chosen to embody. There may be times in which the best course of action involves distancing yourself from someone you dislike. But circumstances may require that you spend time in the company of individuals who awaken your aversion. In such cases, you can ease your discomfort by showing your foe loving compassion while examining your feelings carefully. There is nothing wrong with recognizing that you are incompatible with some people. You may never achieve a shared harmony with those you dislike, but you can nonetheless learn to modulate your reactions to these individuals and ultimately to coexist peacefully with them. That is your challenge for today.
It's a great challenge. You know, we won't always encounter people that shares the same views, shares the same perspectives and stance on different topics, and we have to learn to coexist. That's a part of humanity. That's a part of life, learning to coexist. You can imagine the tension, the frictions, the wars that we would have all over the place, even in our little office space, if we chose to start a fight over every perspective and position.
That's right.
So that's a challenge. That's always a challenge for all of us.
And it's not moving. It's not like either ends of the spectrum. It's not like getting into combat and, you know, getting ready for war at every disagreement or difference in opinion. And it's not sitting around and, you know, singing, holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
Right.
It's simply being able to acknowledge that some people are different from you. Some people have different views and perspectives. They have their own upbringing. And you may not be able to get to a place of agreement with them, but it doesn't mean you must treat them badly, and it doesn't mean that you must engage with them in that type of way. So, you know, I always tell people, my mother taught me one of the best things growing up, and she always said it from we were very young. Not everybody's going to like you. You know, there's 7 billion people in the world. Not everybody's going to like you. It doesn't mean that you have hatred towards them. It doesn't mean that you treat them with disrespect. But you acknowledge that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
Right. I think the goal is respect and understanding. If you just take a little time to understand where someone is coming from, that is important. Because behind every person's position, behind somebody's perspective, there's a story. And you could take 5 minutes out of your time to sit down, listen, understand that person's story, understand where that person is coming from, and you won't leave that conversation, I guarantee you won't leave that conversation feeling as if you've been defeated. But you'll leave that conversation feeling like, 1, you've respected that person, given that person a due respect, and 2, you left learning something about that person or about their position.
And I also think be wary if everybody that you interact with share the same thoughts, ideas, and perspectives as you do. Because, you know, you're not too far off from a cult mentality. You have to open up yourself to different points of view. That's kind of how we expand on the things we already know and understand and believe. And when I add the perspective of others who don't share that, it's only that I have a broader picture.
Right, and then you could engage in...
And I may actually like them. Not share the same opinion, but I may actually like interacting with them.
And that's why you're able to engage in conversations in different settings. You know, and not feel wrapped up in your own little world.
That's right. All right. But we got to get keep on going. We got our weather update coming up now, and of course we're going to get this from the National Meteorological Service of Belize.
Good morning. Mainly fair weather prevails. The 24-hour forecast: sunny with a few cloudy spells today and partly cloudy tonight. Showers or thunderstorms will be isolated with slightly more developing over the south. High temperatures for today will reach 89 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 94 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 81 degrees Fahrenheit in the hills. Low temperatures for tonight will be 81 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 74 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 68 degrees Fahrenheit in the mountains. Winds over the open sea will be from the east to northeast at 5 to 15 knots, and sea conditions will be slight. High tides occur at 10:57 this morning and then 11:55 tonight. Low tides at 5:54 this evening and then 5:36 tomorrow morning. The moon will rise at 7:25 this morning and then set at 8:14 tonight. Sunset is at 6:21 this evening and sunrise at 5:34 tomorrow morning. The extended forecast: there is a chance for a few showers and isolated thunderstorms developing mostly over northern and central areas on Wednesday morning and then over the south on Wednesday night, while activity will be isolated elsewhere. And in the tropical weather outlook, at 6 a.m., the potential tropical cyclone 6 was located near latitude 16.0 north, longitude 63.1 west, or about 105 miles west of Guadeloupe. This disturbance was moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. Elsewhere in the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico, tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 48 hours. For this and other detailed forecasts and various other tidbits, you can visit our website at www.nms.gov.bz or follow our official Facebook page. And this has been this morning's weather report from the National Meteorological Service.
All right, thank you to forecaster Crystal Rosales for that update.
Yeah.
All right, so we're expecting sun and maybe a rain here or there. We are in the rainy season. Very critical reminder there that we are in the hurricane season. There is a potential for a storm to develop. Currently, its track is safely away from Belize, but of course, we got to keep our eye on it.
Yeah, we have only a few months before the season ends, but it's still a long way ahead, and anything could happen.
Yeah, and we're actually heading into the peak of the season for our area. So
we're talking September, October, so definitely keep our eyes open.
All right, but we got to get moving into our show for today.
Yeah. So in our first segment, after we come back from break, we'll have the folks from Our Circle. We have two representatives from Our Circle, and we'll be having a discussion on Pride Week, highlighting Pride Week, the significance of why we celebrate these activities and some of the planned activities for this week.
All right, the second part of our show, there is an ongoing campaign, and it's called People Are Not Property. This is to address the issue of human trafficking that we know exists in Belize today. So we're going to find out more about who's affected and what's being done to be able to cut this very horrible practice of human trafficking.
And then finally, in our final segment, we have two spectacular Belizean young men doing a stellar job in the U.S. Air Force. They're going to tell us more about their experience and how they're bringing their talents, their skills to Belize to advance our security forces.
That's right.
So
that's what we have in store for you today. We're going to go ahead and take that first break. When we come back, we'll be talking about Pride Week in Belize. So stay tuned.
Fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime. While with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun with eCash. We can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
Why, Tony?
Boy, kid, what you going on, man?
We actually can see we can need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups for my grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just ran out to the last batch, must be about like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have anything? What are you going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
The Social Security Board, in collaboration with the Labor Department, takes this opportunity to remind insured persons of the requirements for compensation when on sick leave. Any employee who has worked with an employer for at least 2 months is entitled to 16 working days of sick leave with full pay every year. This is how it works. Upon approval of a sickness or injury benefit claim by SSB, 80% of the employee's weekly insurable earnings is paid as a Social Security benefit, and the difference in the employee's salary is paid by the employer. This is to ensure that the employee does not suffer any loss of wages when ill. After 16 days, compensation for sick leave is paid as a Social Security benefit only. Some conditions apply. This message is brought to you by the Social Security Board and the Labor Department. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Introducing Edam A cheese, the A+ Dutch cheese to hit the Belizean market. As the name says, it is of A-class quality, the best Dutch cheese in Belize. Edam A cheese is creamier, less salty, and simply more delicious. Don't be left out. Get your A cheese at a supermarket near you. A cheese, exclusively distributed by Unitex Company Limited. Call us at 610-3626 or 610-8910. Follow us on Facebook at Unitex Belize.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Well, welcome back. This, as we said before our break, we're having a discussion highlighting Pride Week, and in studio we have with us Amir Gonzalez from Unibam, and on Zoom we have Miss Dericia Castillo, a member of our circle. Good morning, Amir.
Good morning, Paul.
Yeah, good morning, Dericia.
Hi, morning.
All right. So we want to jump right into the discussion. And we know that August 10th, today is a significant day for the community. In 2016, this day was marked with significance. Which one of you would like to take the lead and tell us about what happened on this day?
Okay, so I'll go first. And on August 10th is a significant day for the LGBT community and the wider population of Belize, because that is when the Supreme Court gave a ruling striking out Section 53 of the Criminal Code from the books and saying, listen, this is a win for the LGBT community. Mm-hmm. So we took that as a win for us. And well, now we have a Pride Week that we want to celebrate, and we're not backing off from being entitled to our rights that, or speaking up for our rights that we're entitled to.
Yeah. So this is, and this is part of the reason why Pride Week is celebrated at this time. Right. In other parts of the world, I think it's June or July. Daricia, tell me.
The Global Pride is celebrated in June. Mm-hmm. Okay. America celebrates June, and the UK celebrates in July.
Okay.
So for us, the August 10th and acknowledging that as a part of our history was very important. Mm-hmm. And not only, as Amarcito said, not only for the LGBT community, but for human rights and in an entirety. I mean, why not celebrate progress and inclusion?
Yeah. Well, I think it's critical that on the day that the ruling was made, it's a time to look back. Because we can talk about this now because it has been, the ruling was established, but it was a hard-fought fight. And Daricia, take us back to that time and what it was like to be a member of the community and hearing kind of the opposing views and the allies that stepped out as well.
Well, at that time, I keep telling people that it was a time that Caleb referred to as a lonely fight, particularly because there was limited to no discussion occurring in regards to the LGBT community and the progress that was being made. If we actually go back to discussions about the LGBT community, majority of the focus was on men who had sex with men who would have identified as gay or bisexual, and looking at it from a discussion of HIV and sexual health, as opposed to looking at it as from a human rights angle, looking at the LGBT community on a whole. And if we go back to Section 53, we see where the wording of it and the language that was used was pretty much targeting the MSM population, the men who have sex with men population. And during that time when Caleb did that constitutional challenge, and we say Caleb because he brought it up as Unibam. However, it was ruled that an organization cannot do the constitutional challenge. It has to be an individual challenge that is being made. And I think that was very iconic, because that brought back to the fact that this legislation, which existed in our books, was pretty much affecting individuals as opposed to a collective, as what majority of the naysayers were saying. The naysayers were speaking as to, oh, this was a hidden agenda to push equal marriage, to imitate the US, to imitate the UK. This is not a national issue. But at that time, one of our national acts or policies or legislation actually impacted us as Belizeans. So it was very interesting to hear that Caleb's decision to challenge Section 53 was a foreign agenda, when in actuality it was Belizeans who were living with the repercussions or the possibility of facing 10 years imprisonment for having what was being considered unnatural sexual acts.
Yeah. Now, Amir, I understand that while a lot of this was a very opposition-driven sort of fight, I understand that in the background, there was also this fight to put in the public, or at least for you to solidify a personal identity. So more than just fighting against the opposition, it was a personal fight to show who you are. Speak to that.
So yes, you speak about it being a personal issue, and definitely it was, because I can tell you about the time that when I was attending high school at St. John's College, they did not want to, or what happened is that I expressed my support to to Caleb for taking up the constitutional challenge, and it was an issue being in high school, being an all-boys school. The guys made some noise about it. The headmaster at the time, she called me into her office. She was asking, what's going on? I want you to take down that YouTube video that you uploaded to, on social media. And you know what? I want you to also go and talk to the school counselor. And I even got suspended for 3 days, and I think that is just very unfair.
Wow. And so that was at the time when the court case was going on. Tell me about what it was like when the ruling was finally made. By that time, you were in your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we got the victory, it was a feeling of relief that is no longer going to be in the books. You can no longer be threatened by the police or by anyone, because that was being used as an intimidation type of tool to intimidate gay people, lesbians, bisexuals, transgendered persons as well. And so it was, for me and for many people, it was like a relief. And but it doesn't end there. Progress still needs to be made, and we will keep moving forward. There are still other things that we are probably going to have to litigate, because in having conversations with our politicians, they seem to not want to listen that we have some concerns, some legal concerns. And with the Equal Opportunities Bill that has, we've tried pushing for it, I think once or twice, and it's been kind of tossed to the side, like Belize isn't ready for that. But 2021 is the right time for the Equal Opportunities Bill. So I really like that the parliamentarians be able to take a look at the legislation and say, hey, this is good for Belize.
Yeah. You know, 5 years after the ruling, it's a significant occasion for the LGBT community. But today we really wanted to look at what that ruling means, and also to kind of understand or put into perspective how you were in your teens when the case was ongoing. Already publicly declared as gay. You had already come out, to your family. And for other people, they were still kind of hiding their identity. They were fearful when they were your age. Teresa, let's just talk about the construct of what society is today, post this Section 53 ruling, versus when you were growing up and other people in the community.
Well, we've significantly seen where, while there are persons who are still not at the point of coming out of identifying with the LGBT community, we do see where there are more vocal and visible allies in supporting human rights. They may not necessarily be speaking to supporting LGBT rights in specific, but to the tune of ensuring that every Belizean citizen has the equal access to justice, has equal rights in any aspects when it comes to addressing human rights issues. We do know that in the past, a lot of the LGBT celebrations, because Pride Week is not the first of LGBT persons coming together, celebrating themselves, celebrating their identities. But what Pride Week has done is to insert within that a milestone for us to actually celebrate. And back in the days, a lot of the socialization for the LGBT persons had to be undercover or what was considered like underground parties, where people would come out to the parties, would hang out, would socialize with each other, and then Monday morning go back to work living what was considered a normal life.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much having an LGBT community from a social setting to now we're at a point where we are at legal tables, we are at political forums, we are at places to show that, okay, it goes beyond what the perception was of the LGBT lifestyle or the LGBT way of life, and coming from an angle of where we're incorporated into what is considered the Belizean lifestyle, whether that is making a change, whether that is looking towards creating opportunities not only for ourselves but our families. And we're at a point now where 5 years after the ruling, it's not only the LGBT community talking. We have allies coming up and speaking, as I mentioned, about the importance of equal rights, about the importance of coming together, looking at our differences and seeing how our differences can bring us together to have that intersectional approach to ensure everyone is protected.
You know, even the language that you are now using, from talking about LGBT community, inclusive of all the different identities one, and there are more, I know, one can have, and also talking about the perspective of human rights, that in itself is a change. A decade ago, you were talking, people would commonly just say gay rights. That's what we're looking at. So it's an expansion of perspective. But I guess one of the things I want to understand is, do you feel safer now that it has been legitimized in our legislation? Does it make a difference in how open you can feel about your sexuality or identity?
I think there's, as Amarcita mentioned, there's still a lot more work to be done, not only from the legal or political aspect, but also with the community. Right. Because there's still that level of mistrust. 5 years is not a lot. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, there has not been much progress to incorporate the changes that the ruling on Section 53 gave. So we're still at the point of where it's to be interpreted within the legislation to protect persons based on despite their sexual orientation or gender identity. But what we do have and what we do see being created are more safe spaces for LGBT persons, whether it's more safe spaces there are some high schools now who have gay-straight alliances. There's the talk now or the discussion now within the University of Belize's social work department to be able to understand gender diversity and sexual orientation. So we're progressing, maybe slowly legally, but when it comes to society and the societal change that has been occurring, we're seeing where more and more groups, more and more institutions and corporations are acknowledging that they are working with diverse persons, that there are diverse needs and finding ways to incorporate that. So yes, there are still community members who don't feel safe for whatever reason, and I think especially highlighting such a thing as Pride Week is to show that we can come together. There may be naysayers about what we're celebrating and why we're celebrating. However, it's the momentum that needs to be built. And as I mentioned, I think it was yesterday, at some point there may not be much of a big significance or a big difference between what is called a Pride Week and what is called Human Rights Day, because we will all come together to celebrate that we're at a point in Belize now where we can say people are equal. So within the community, there are still those who are reserved, have not acknowledged the level of safety that would make them comfortable. But we do see where there has been a societal shift to be inclusive of not only LGBT persons, but persons with diverse abilities, persons with different ethnicity or religious beliefs. So we've seen where there has been an evolution.
Speaking to the societal shift, what are some of the prevalent misinformations you would say, even to you, Amir, that the community has had to intentionally sought to dispel among the larger population?
Right. So, like Derisa was saying, I feel that here in Belize, we do need a little bit more of safer spaces for the wider LGBT community to feel safe. There are persons that don't really, they still face the discrimination at home, in the workplace, at schools. So there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. Yeah.
Derisa, maybe you would want to also chime in on that topic in speaking of some of the misinformation you believe the community has had to intentionally sought to dispel among the larger population.
There's been a large amount of myths, and I think coming from particularly where our circle focuses on, because our circle focuses on the lived and legal inclusion of LGBT-formed families. There was a point in the...
Okay, we seem to have lost your audio there for a second.
Yeah,
go
there
ahead.
you go.
Can you?
Yes.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah,
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. As I was saying, they're coming from the angle of the work that our circle does. We work with LGBT-formed families. So there was a point where equating LGBT persons and families was definitely taboo because there was no linkage coming from a biblical perspective of LGBT persons ever having the opportunity to procreate. So we're at a point now where it has gone from LGBT persons or human rights for LGBT persons to looking at sexual reproductive rights for LGBT persons, not because of the fact that we are in a same-sex relationship does not mean that we don't acknowledge having a family or want to have a family. There is also a lot of myths in regards to the seriousness behind these relationships that we have.
Yeah.
The big thing with LGBT persons is we're often sexualized as to what we do within closed doors, as opposed to looking at who we are as humans and the rights that we have, the universal rights that we have. We have right to family, right to education, right to a job. We have all those rights. But like I mentioned, there's been a shift from the LGBT underground parties to LGBT persons are here, LGBT persons are productive citizens and are contributing towards the society that we live in today. Yeah. And there has been a lot of misconceptions that have been rooted by misunderstandings from the biblical perspective of the biblical side of life. To say it in a safe way. However, we're at a point where we're showing that we're humans and we have the rights and also the responsibility, which is very important because as we're progressing and pushing for equal human rights, we must also realize and acknowledge that we also have the responsibility to do our part to ensure that.
Okay, you got muted there again for a second. I mean, let's pick up the conversation.
It's not only there for us, but that we are also in the point of ensuring that persons with other different characteristics are also included within this.
Yes, yes. So I just wanted to pick up with you, and I think it's interesting when we look at generation, how the different generations approach coming out and being openly identified as gay or transgender or bisexual. What about your upbringing? Do you think that it was just kind of the way society was open, that you felt comfortable coming out at an early age? What was different for you?
Well, for me, coming out was, it's funny because I never really wanted to come out, but my parents found out through a text message that they saw in my phone. So I had to sit down and talk to them and tell them, yes, Mom and Dad, I'm gay. And well, after it was a rough start, but after a couple of years, so that happened when I was 13 years old. And well, when I was in high school and I decided to do it on social media, then it was a little bit easier for me because I said I have to stand up for myself, and I want to be a role model for other people that may also think that they may never want to come out to their families, because that is, I think that is important. Acceptance from family is very important, and a lot of people have that fear that they might never be accepted by their family because maybe sometimes even your parents might be pastors or might be very religious, or they might have parents that have public positions in government maybe, and they may not want to come out. But I'd want to inspire those persons to want to be a catalyst for change, and want to but yeah, so for me, what I wanted was to really be brave and try to inspire others to come out.
What was it like? You said in the beginning, after your parents found out, it was tough for a while. But what was it like when they reached that level of acceptance?
So it was only until fairly recently that I feel that once they understand that who I am, and that there is not the that I'm not gonna be pushed back into the closet kind of thing.
That it's not a phase.
That now I'll be on TV and talking about these issues. That that they say, hey, you know, we just have to accept him for who he is, and they love me for who I am. And that is comforting for me, because I know that I have people that will be supportive for me in whatever that I do. So I think that I need to thank my parents for really being supportive in everything that I do. Even like when I told them that I'll be here today, you know, they just said, well, good luck.
Yeah, yeah. Good morning, Mom and Dad. They're probably watching right now. But it is, you know, because and that's why we acknowledge that there's kind of, and I think Teresa really talked about, you know, what it used to be like, kind of the underground living, to now still being open but cautiously. And what's it like when you have conversations? Caleb is, for example, one of those persons, I think, that really put his face out there, and he used to always say, you know, he has people who support him, but they just can't come out. And so he was the one who made that decision. But when you imagine that there are people who are in their 50s, 60s, people who are married, people who have chosen to hide this part of themselves because they're fearful of what society will say, think, or do. Can you, when you hear their stories, what's it like for you?
So I think that in the past they have had it even more difficult than I do now, because times have changed. There is a little bit more education now, and I feel that it is an easier time to come out now than back then. Back then, maybe families used to be even more religious than now. People would be crucified for who they were. People lost their jobs, lost their inheritance and things that they'd expect that from their families, or even their support from their families. They'd be kicked out of their homes.
You've heard all these stories from people before.
So, right, and they'd have no really any safe spaces to socialize, or might not even know who to talk to when they're running into problems. And now I feel like there are more figures that you can look up to, like Caleb. When in high school, I never expected that he would be challenging the Constitution, you know, and well, when he was on TV, he inspired me, and then I said I want to be another person that will inspire other young people as well. You know, I think that young people make up a large percentage of the population of Belize. So I want, when there's no, when Caleb decides that, you know what, I've done my part, it is time for young people to take, to step up to the plate and continue the work. Then, so I believe that now it's a little bit easier, and I would hope that when when our organizations are holding more activities and having public events, that they would stop by, follow us on our social media pages, educate themselves about what their rights are that they are entitled to, so that because as a collective, when we come together, then our voices are multiplied tenfold, and that is when our politicians, they start to really take note. Well, hey, you know what? I have voters that in my constituency that are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex. That they're gonna say within my own party, I have politicians that might be gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgendered, you know, and or within the churches as well. I think that is very important, that we lose, take a step out of our comfort zone and really start talking, coming together and be a united community, a united front, like other unions, and fight for what we are entitled to, because we're all human, we're all equal, nobody is above the rest. So.
And that's a key part of what Pride Week really boils down to. It's kind of everybody just commemorating this time of being comfortable in who you are. And I know where we can see that things are changing is even in the development of new organizations. UNIBAM, for example, is one that we've talked about for a long time. We've had Petal on the show before, which is the organization, I believe they're with women who are lesbians, right?
Correct.
And then our circle is kind of this coordinating network. So it shows that there are more agencies, more organizations coming out and ensuring that they can be a voice or at least a safe space for members of the community. Teresa?
Yeah, I think both what you and Amarcito spoke about just a while ago is very important. To one, acknowledge that there are different priorities within the LGBT community itself, and that we are coming together looking at our similarities, because remember, like you mentioned, Marlene, it went from the gay movement to what is now the LGBTQI plus new movement. So there is a wide spectrum of needs, a wide spectrum of realities that need to be captured. And what we see from these realities and these needs, it's a mere fact that there has been more people taking up leadership roles in identifying and acknowledging the gaps which exist within the LGBT community for our families, for our allies, and trying to bridge those gaps so that we reach a point where Amarcito spoke about us coming together and moving forward with one focus, one priority. We may not all focus on the exact same thing, but what our underlying issues are is that the LGBT community is a very marginalized community here in Belize. We're vulnerable to almost invisibility, to be honest. And with us having Pride Week, it shows where that person who is still thinking about coming out, that person who is still thinking about being showing their truth, can actually say, okay, I do have support. Okay, I'm not in this alone. It might be that mother who may not know what answers to give her child in regards to their sexuality. If it's a person or a family member who identifies as lesbian or bisexual, we know that there's an organization such as PETAL that would be able to support that person. If it's from a legal standpoint, we know that there is UNIBAM, legal standpoint and violence. If it's regarding to sexual health, we know that there is EYBM. We even have the emergence of trans organization, which is Trans in Action Belize and Belize Trans Colors, which caters to gender non-conforming. And then there's our circle who deals with families and protecting our families. So we've seen where as the years evolve and we've become more vocal, we've been able to better communicate where the gaps are, identify ways to bridge those gaps, and figure out how do we move step by step. I mean, it's not an easy process. Looking at the time Caleb started the challenge to the time we actually got a ruling that has set precedence to us that patience as well as actively engaging the right person will definitely have us reach to a point where we can say, okay, we're going to see progress. We are going to ensure, and now, like I mentioned when I first started, at that point it was considered a lonely fight for Caleb, because then that's where we only had the visibility and the organization of UNIBAM. Now we're here, 7 organizations in, dealing with different angles to be able to bridge those gaps and better communicate and deal and address the issues of our community.
So when you look at where we are at this time, and I think we've had this conversation before, we may have it, that there's kind of a tiered, there are tiers as to the level of vulnerabilities for different groups. Because of the type of society we live in, lesbianism wasn't as bad as being bisexual. Bisexual wasn't as bad as being a man who has sex with men. But now we're seeing the highest vulnerability group being transgender people in the country. How do you then, having walked this path of being the most vulnerable group, now embrace the challenges of other communities or people who have similar challenges to what you faced?
So definitely, Marlene, like how you're saying, trans persons, because we have trans males and females, that they do have it the hardest, I would say, because they have within their families, they might not understand what it means to be a trans person. Not only that, but they might have challenges with just getting an education where, in primary school or high school, that may be really tough than just a gay person or a lesbian person or bisexual. And I don't know what, well, of course, we'll know that they will be facing the discrimination, but how hard is it going to be for them when they want to access their right to education? How are the primary schools or high schools in Belize going to be welcoming to them when they want to access that, or even their the healthcare system? What are they doing for trans persons?
Amir, let me just ask you on a personal note. I know you say that one of your desires or goal is to be an inspiration to persons within the community. For someone as young as yourself, advocating and representing what is deemed a marginalized community. I think that's huge. What is perhaps one experience you've had, and I'm sure you have perhaps many stories, where someone actually came up to you from within the community and said, you know what, Amira, I'm so proud of you. I'm so encouraged by your openness, and this has, in fact, even encouraged me myself to, be more open.
Well, definitely, I do have many stories, indeed. When I had that situation in high school, I had a few students come up to me and told me, wow, you're, I'm really happy for what you did, uploading your video in support of the Constitutional Challenge. And of course, they didn't want perhaps to anybody to bully them for who they are, but they didn't feel like they were where I was to be able to be ready to come out. But now I'm sure that they have already come out by now. Well, so in high school I had that instance. Other people, when I uploaded that video of the constitutional, in support of the Constitutional Challenge, I also had many people send me messages via social media and telling me that, you know what, I would never, you being so young, I would never really be brave enough to do something like what you did. Also, and still every now and then when I get to meet people and tell them my stories, or they've heard, or they know me from some way, or probably like right now going on television, they might say, hey, I saw you on TV and you're talking about LGBT issues, and I'm not, you inspired me. I never thought that I would be, or I'd never think that maybe one day I'd be able to do the same as what you are doing. Yeah. But definitely I have had where people have come up to me and said, hey, you know what, I really, I have to thank you for what you did. Because of you now I've come out.
Yeah. All right. And while it is a time for celebration, it is also acknowledging that there's more work to be done.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So I appreciate, any closing thoughts, Daricia?
I just want to thank Amercito for his bravery, because he was speaking. Yes, because to be honest, and as you said, Marlene, there's a lot more work that needs to be done. Because when it comes to the conversation with LGBT persons and LGBT or LGBT and associating that with the youth population, it's a very touchy situation because of some of the stigma which still exists around the LGBT community. And for a moment to acknowledge that, look at this conversation that's happening right now. We're here on the TV, we're representing two different organizations, two different sexual orientation, and we're having this opportunity to actually have an open and honest discussion about where we are, where we were, where we are now, and where we're going to go. And it's only by building community, building that trust, not only amongst ourselves, but also within the wider population, that we will be seen and respected as human beings, that we can actually see Belize actually becoming a land of the free. I mean, if we're at the point where we have a community or people who are not being respected or treated with dignity, then are we truly a land of the free? So it's very important for us, and I'm sure Amercito feels the same way, that we've identified our history. We are acknowledging our history, and we're building on that history, so that the younger persons who identify as LGBT would not have to go through the same struggles that we've been through. Amercito spoke about going to a religious school. I went to a religious school too, where I was being told that everything I was feeling was from the devil. So we could imagine how challenging that and trying to become a healthy adult, a mentally healthy adult, was very difficult. So we're at a point where I think Pride, especially Pride Week, is definitely going to evolve beyond having events, beyond engaging politicians, and creating a safe state of mind for persons who identify as LGBT. And we have to keep in mind the psychosocial support to provide to those people when they do associate themselves with the LGBT community, and as well their families. Yeah. So I think we're at a point where we can build that momentum to strengthen the community. And I do believe Pride Week will only get bigger and better for us here in Belize. And it's very important for us to know our history and why we do it in August, so that we can be able to build the community and to be able to truly celebrate by us all coming together, whether it's virtual, whether it's physical, but coming together and acknowledging that we have made strides.
All right. Well, Darisia, Amir, thank you for joining us this morning for this conversation. And of course, we'll keep us updated as to what happens next.
Of course, and thank you for having us. And one last thing, to, closing remarks. It's okay to be gay or to be bisexual or transgendered or lesbian as well.
All right.
Thank you, Amir.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to be focusing on the launch of a campaign against human trafficking. Please stay tuned.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Smart continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun. With eCash, we can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials. all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
Why, Tony?
Boy, Keith, where you going, man?
I actually can see we can need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups for my grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just ran out to the last batch, must be about like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have anything? Where you going?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, you can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
And we're back, and we're moving into our second conversation for today. Another critically important point, talking about another vulnerable population in our society, and that is persons who are victims of human trafficking. There is an entire committee set up to be able to address this particular issue. It is the ATIPS committee.
Council.
The ATIPS Council,
Yes,
thank you.
that's okay.
And we have the focal point with us, Juana Murillo. And we have Karen Kane, who is the Director of the Youth Enhancement Services, who also works in educating and building awareness and assisting in ATIP's efforts. Right. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. So nice to be here. It is.
Yeah, very important conversation. People are not property. It just seems like one of these no-brainer statements that we should be able to say, why is it even necessary to have a campaign named this way? But human trafficking is a problem globally, and it is a problem in this country. Set the backdrop for us.
So when we think of human trafficking, I know sometimes we often think there's no way that this thing happens in our little country, Belize. Right. We are excused from some of these heinous things, but it does happen. And trafficking, we see, is essentially at its core exploiting vulnerabilities in populations that are looking for something better. Yeah. So we see persons from the LGBT community, migrants, persons that are in poverty, where there's social inequalities. And when you think of trafficking in persons, that's what you want to think of, and at the very end of it, what makes it different from other crimes is that it exploits people. Yeah. So the purpose is for exploitation. That's what makes it different from any other type of gender-based violence, like sexual assault or domestic violence.
You know, it's been called modern-day slavery. One of the interesting things about trafficking victims that I do know is that we may see them and interact with them and not know that they're a victim of trafficking. And that's kind of just how it's set up. And let's talk about some of the ways that you see trafficking happening in Belize. Right.
From my perspective, what I have seen in terms of trafficking in Belize is that, like Jana said, it has threefold or three elements within it. And one is the purpose of labor exploitation, so that's how it manifests itself here. Usually in the agricultural fields, sometimes in construction, and even domestic servitude. So, and again, the person or the victim is being exploited and somebody else is gaining from that exploitation. Yeah. And then the big one that I think we see a lot of is the sexual exploitation. Yeah. And we have young girls who are being exploited in that way. We have young boys who are being exploited in that way. And at the end of the day, it is something that we really need to look at and see how we can combat that. We know worldwide that we have at least, the last reading that I did was like 1.2 million children have been exploited worldwide. Wow. So that's a big, big deal. And in our little country, we see exploitation not only within brothels, but also within locally on the CSEC front, where we have sugar daddy and the sugar mama syndrome.
Where families.
Right, where families exploit their own children. So it is a big deal in our country, and we need to, we at the ATIPS Council is looking at ways, always looking at innovative ways of how to combat such a dreadful crime against our young children.
Forgive me for perhaps asking a basic question. That's fine. But when I'm thinking about trafficking in persons, my mind begins to think about traffic and mobilization and a sort of movement. Where does the term trafficking comes from when what I'm hearing us talking about is exploitation? And what's the difference between trafficking in person and perhaps human trafficking?
Okay, so it's the same thing. Trafficking in persons and human, sorry, not human smuggling. Human trafficking is the same thing.
Okay.
What, okay, let's look at the technical definition. That might bring a lot of clarity for you. So when you think of human trafficking or trafficking in persons, you think of act, that is what is done, means, how it is done, and purpose, why it is done. And the act is where you have like the recruitment, the transportation, the harboring, receiving persons. And then the means is where you have the deception or the fraud or the abuse of power. And then the final one where you have the purpose, which is for exploitation. And this is, exploitation comes in so many different forms. Ms. Kane, it looks like sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, illegal organ industry, pimping, pandering, all of these things. But in Belize, what we've seen, like what Ms. Kane said, is the labor and sex exploitation. It does beg the question then, what makes it different from human smuggling?
Right.
And human smuggling is a crime against the state. So you think of human smuggling as you breaking the immigration laws of a country. So you're not giving that country the right to determine who enters and exits, essentially. Yeah. But persons that pay to be smuggled or to come across the border can become victims of trafficking in persons. They're very vulnerable because a smuggler could also be a trafficker or could be a recruiter.
Yeah. And that's the problem. It's so complex.
It is. It's super complex, and it's not a one-size-fits-all type of solution.
Yeah, yeah. So when you talk about people who, okay, let's differentiate at least two scenarios. Okay. People who come into the country and are trafficked for sexual work, and so for sex work. So they come in, they think they're going to get a different job. They're smuggled into the country, trafficked into the country, end up working for an employer, half forced into being a sex worker. And I know some of the key markers are taking away passport and privileges of moving around.
Right.
Then you have other people who come in and get forced into agriculture, construction, or even they're made into a house slave.
Right, right.
So when you see someone in a brothel, or when you see somebody who is a domestic in a house, because they're moving around freely, we on the outside look at them and say, okay, well, there's no forced action taking place there. So how do you identify these victims in order to help them?
Okay, so I think I want to bring attention to a little poster that we have, what we've created at the, I don't know if you could zoom in here, that we've created at the council. And it looks at some of the key signs that you could think of when trying to identify this crime. Because like you said, we're not going to see people in chains. That's not how it's going to present itself. We're not going to see people all bogged up in one area. You're going to see persons that can move around, but you don't know what it looks like. One of the identifying factors that we notice is that that person has very little personal belongings, even when they're walking on the street. Because it limits their access to anything, and it has the trafficker maintain control on their end. So not having money for themselves, they're not having a cell phone, they're not having access to enter the house on their own. So that taking away the control to kind of move on their own, even though they're on the street, is one of the things that you notice. Another thing that you would find, and I'll use this as an example, if the person has untreated injuries. So a trafficker will not take a victim to the hospital because we know doctors, nurses are monitor reporters.
Yes.
So when you find that you look on someone's hand and there's a bruise and there's no treatment to it, or you're having a conversation and they complain about these weird injuries and they have a certain age, that is like a red flag, because why are you 13, 15 having immense back pain or shoulder pain? What type of work are you doing that would cause these types of pain?
Just to interject,
go ahead, no
Jana, you're talking about the back pains and the bruises and all of that. And I could remember in one of our trainings that we did some years ago, we learned that to punish these victims when they step out of line, basically, they are beaten under their clothes, so you can see the bruises, right? And so if you see a person, again, like Jana is saying, who has bruises and they cannot be explained why these bruises are maybe in the upper torso or wherever they are, these are big red flags. And then you have another incident where these victims never look you straight in the eye. You know, they always kind of head bent down and not making eye contact. Another red flag would be if they are accompanied by someone to the hospital. Rarely do they explain their injuries or what is wrong with them. That person that accompanied them is usually the one talking on their behalf. And if you notice something like that, those should send up some concerns, right? Because
why is an individual not
talking
up
for someone else who is old enough to explain and express herself?
And when they're having conversations as well, they're very limited and one word. They don't try to explain anything because they've already been told, watch what you say, because someone is also monitoring them.
So there's just this immense fear.
Yes,
it's a submission, a fear.
Right, that's the fear to keep you paralyzed, to keep you in place, you know. Some traffickers even use drugs to let them not be able to move and talk and like always be in this zombie state that they can be controlled. Because at the end of the day, I want to minimize that person running away. I want to minimize the fact that he or she is not always in his or her right faculties, so that I can explain what is happening to me. And then on the other hand of explaining, sometimes there's a language barrier. Because here I am maybe from another Central American state and I was thrust into an English-speaking country, although we have a large amount of our own population who speaks Spanish, right? But that is always a barrier, the language as well.
And what they would also do, the trafficker would lie to them about their access to help. So they say, if you go to police, we are reported to immigration and they are carry you.
Yes.
Which is a lie, because there is a protective measure within the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Act that specifically states that persons that were victims will not be charged for immigration offenses.
But how do you get that information to them? If I was smuggled into a country and I'm being forced to do work that I don't want to do, it could be sex work, it could be domestic work, I can't leave, there's a threat on my family back home, or there's a threat to me here, and I know I came into this country legally. Police and immigration, even if my trafficker doesn't tell me, would instill fear in me.
Right.
So how do you get that message out to persons who are victims to understand that under or in Belize, they should not be persecuted if they are trafficking victims?
So right now at the council, we've actually had conversation on how to reach that population.
Yeah.
We recently had a meeting with Belize and Honduras because most of our victims are coming from the Northern Triangle, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. And so we had a meeting with the persons responsible for trafficking persons in Honduras, and we developed some prevention activities to think of how to get information to these populations within both countries so that they understand what their rights are and what the realities look like. And this is what's going to be a part of this awareness campaign that we're currently undergoing, to get the information to the people that really need to hear it. So I brought a lot of things with me today. So we have developed, well, this is a part of the council for a while. It's a labor laws pamphlet in Spanish and in English.
Okay.
And what we try to ensure that when temporary employment permits are given, these are given within them as well. Because it talks about, well, this one is in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but it talks about their rights, what days they should get off or what's supposed to be happening, and if that's not happening, who to contact. And we have that in English. And we also have some pamphlets being created on what human trafficking is and we're looking at trying to create it in languages that are spoken in Belize, not just English and Spanish, but Mandarin, and for other communities that are vulnerable. Because we do realize that, a video on a Facebook might not reach a vulnerable person.
Of course, they wouldn't have a phone.
Right, they wouldn't have access to that. So we have to develop these, what we would call these obsolete versions. We have to use them for that vulnerable population that only has access to papers.
And they may be watching TV. I mean, this is one opportunity here. Is it often the case that a trafficking victim knows that they're a trafficking victim?
No. That's not always the case, because they're exploiting their vulnerability, and Ms. King can tell you this. If somebody grows up in a poor neighborhood or in a very remote village, they're perfect target for a trafficker, because that person doesn't understand how technology works, or they don't understand the reality of the world. So they say, I'm going to take you to a 5-star restaurant, and you're going to be able to make this money, provide for your family, and do all these wonderful things, and you end up in Belize, and you're making a little bit of money, so you think, this is so much better than what I was making back home. Or they come from a country where the labor laws are so different from Belize. So they sign a contract, end up in Belize, and they think everything is fine, not knowing they are being exploited. And so a lot of times they don't understand that they are victims.
For a person that may understand that they are a victim, they're experiencing the real fears, and they perhaps understand the repercussions of coming out and asking for help. How do you assist somebody like that?
Well, what we've been doing, we've been doing trainings with frontline workers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, so kind of taking it in strides. Ms. Kane from YS has been doing it.
Yeah. And which groups do that include, Karen?
Say?
Which groups do that include? What frontline workers?
Frontline workers usually nurses, especially those in the rural communities, because that's where a lot of the trafficking happens. We usually also look at teachers, because they themselves might come in contact with the children of trafficking victims. But one of the things that I wanted to add that Jana was saying is that, and I think either you or the young man asked the question about how do you help people who are already in, maybe they not get the information, is not aware of their rights, so how do you help that person? And I will tell you this not to sound pessimistic, but it's really and truly very, very difficult, because you remember now the trafficker has that person being watched, being monitored, and all of that, right? So how do I get help? Sometimes in some situations, you might have somehow build a relationship with someone else within that brothel or within that bar or restaurant that probably has a sympathetic heart and would defy their bosses, as to say, to help. Sometimes it might even be your customer who you're servicing. You might slip him a phone number and ask him to make a call on your behalf and things like that. And those are the cases that these people then, if it pans through or comes through, then they are lucky.
Yeah.
But there are some who have been trafficked for years and cannot
Never get out.
Yeah.
get the help. And one of the things that
And the psychological state they must
exactly
be in.
It traps them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're...
And so if you look at it carefully, because I was trying to ask Jana a while ago, what are the 3 Ps? I know we have 4 Ps.
Yes, there are 4 Ps.
Which is the prevention, the prosecution, partnerships,
and protection.
And protection.
Yes.
And so when these individuals are rescued, what we find challenging in this country is that instead of them wanting to, or maybe they might want to, but in their heads, in their minds, the ultimate goal for them is to return back home as quick as possible. So therefore, I don't want any prosecution, which is where we want them to prosecute, because then it would mean that trafficker, you know, they got justice and we got that person locked up and put away so that they cannot do it to another person.
Yeah.
But their ultimate goal is return me home like yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and you cannot be upset with them, because at the end of the day, they have been robbed of their dignity, their self-respect, the fact that they have been isolated from friends and parents and children, perhaps, that they left back home. The ultimate is
or
go
just
back
get
home.
back to safety.
Get back to
that's,
safety.
That's definitely one
Right?
of the biggest. You know, when we do trainings and we explain to the persons that, you know, there's a law that protects migrants for not, you know, to not be prosecuted, and they're like, oh, well, then people are going to take advantage of this law. And it's like, no, you don't realize it. Just like how when you are somewhere, you want to come back home, they want to go back home. They don't want to stay in a country that they don't know the people, or they want to go back to their families. But I just want to make sure that I answer your question directly. If somebody realizes that they're being that they're a victim, how do they seek help? They could call Human Services. They could also go to a police station. What we found, if someone goes and reports something to a police station, I know there's a lot to say in regards to that. We're not going to get into that particularly, but we have a unit within the police department that deals directly with trafficking in persons, the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Police Unit. And they are contacted anytime something looks like a trafficking case, and they address the situation. So the police...
But does the training for police, because I know you do frontline training, who all is included? Is it just the unit? Because there might be the officer that I meet at the front desk who will just say, oh, you're illegally here. Go ahead.
We're on... I want to mention the International Organization for Migration.
Yes.
They're a big partner for the council, and they are the reason this awareness campaign is happening right now.
Okay.
And alongside them, what we've actually been doing, we've embarked on getting training for all tourism police officers. We're almost at the end. We have a training this Thursday, and that should wrap up 100% of the officers.
Okay.
And I know there are trainings planned on trafficking in persons with the rest of the police department. I'm not sure if it started as yet, but there are plans. Another one of our partners, the Human Trafficking Institute, is taking over that particular training and working with the training academy to get all officers trained. And one of the victories that we've had last year, they incorporated trainings on trafficking in persons within the police training academy.
Fantastic.
So all new police officers will have knowledge on trafficking in persons and the existence of the unit and what to look out for, so that they could assist.
I have one final question.
No problem.
In looking at the situation of trafficking. So we talked on different levels. We talked victim. We talked of the state's responsibility to care for victims who are identified. But the persecution is important. And the persecution is important for obvious reasons, like stopping the practice or stopping someone who has the practice, but also globally, it's seen as a development marker. And so we have consistently come under heavy scrutiny because we don't persecute or, in other words, take traffickers to the court system, get them convicted as often as possible. How do we get there? And is it a fair marker to the work that we've been doing with trafficking in persons?
That's a tricky question.
That is a tricky question.
It is a tricky question, but no, definitely.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to shy away from answering that. Prosecution, like I said, has to be the victim wants to do it. And most of the time, like I said earlier, they don't want to. I am thinking, and this is just off the top of my head, nobody is saying this to me at this, to me at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm saying perhaps the state needs to decide, you know what happened? Yes, and perhaps it's there. So if it's there, Jana, you tell me.
No worries.
But if this victim wants to return so badly, then let her. But can we at least gather statements? Do
in camera
video, right? Video
in camera testimonies.
Testimonies that she's there, and even at the point where our intelligence unit can, if she identifies the perpetrator and he's lined up prior to her going, of course, and she would point out and say that's him or that's her, because we know both women and men are traffickers. And I think we have to start to do more proactive thinking of how to get these victims to really prosecute, because at the end of the day, without being looking as if though we're trying only to accommodate a mandate with our U.S. partners, is to say, yes, this is happening, and we have to do it, and in terms of prosecuting our perpetrators on a more level, because that is how we are basically ranked. I know they look a lot at,
they look mostly at persecution, and every time I see that question, okay, what is the ratio of persons saved from human trafficking versus persons prosecuted?
And if you hear, right, it's very, very minimal.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone that we are citing, yes, but what else can we do? I think we have to look now at the flip side. Okay, yes, the people want to go home. Yes, the people want to forget because it's a traumatic event. But what else can we do to make sure that these perpetrators don't walk away scotch-free?
And that's a reason why the government has started to create these specialized units to address trafficking, to help us increase prosecution, because it's a collaborative effort. It starts all the way from protection, from identifying all the way to protection that gives a successful case. And so the police unit was established in 2018, 2019. So it's just recently that was established. What we've done, we have a Justice Moore, set her as the only judge that hears all trafficking cases because she understands the human rights aspect of everything. And so we have social workers that we've identified, these are the 2 social workers that will deal with trafficking cases. And so we're moving towards an era of training everyone, but having persons that are specialized to deal with it. And we're seeing how that might assist us in getting successful prosecution. I think one of the success stories from this year actually is that the Guatemalan young lady that was found as victim in January, February of this year, that case is already waiting to be put before the court. So that is happening at a fast rate because those persons, from the start of identifying to investigating are working collaboratively. So we're looking forward to seeing more of that as we encounter more, as we push for more specialization in the government as we respond to trafficking.
Just one final question and to add a tad bit there, but without downplaying the seriousness of trafficking, it appears in a sense that it's a supply. And the supply that exists because there is a demand.
Precisely.
And perhaps that is a call for a change or a shift in culture and behavior among our country, among our countrymen, women, etc. But my simple question is, me as an untrained, ordinary person who have this information at hand, how can I help? What can I do when I identify one of these persons?
So how can you help? We don't want anybody to investigate on their own. They could be putting themselves in danger. So there are ways that you can report anonymously, and that is through Crime Stoppers. We often advertise it because we feel it's important to encourage people to feel safe that, if I say something, this will not reach back to me, especially in a small country like Belize. So you can call Crime Stoppers at 922. You don't have to call the 0800 number anymore. just 922, or there's an app that you can report on via the P3 Tips app. And you choose your country, you can report any crime on it actually, not just human trafficking. And nothing comes back to you. It doesn't ask for your name, your email address, your phone number, nothing. You just use a 4-digit code to enter in. It's available on iOS and Android, and you don't have to be connected to anything. And I want to emphasize, we don't want anybody to investigate. Don't try and go closer to take a picture.
Or ask them.
Or ask anybody questions. Yes, if you somehow end up having a conversation with somebody very casually and you think something is wrong, you can report that, but please don't put yourself in danger, because we don't want our Belizean people to, there are people out there that can do this job. And just to put in, this is why we're doing this awareness campaign, the poster. And I'll start off with the fact that the cash prize is $500.
Okay.
We've gotten good, we've gotten a lot of people actually being interested in participating. And it is to encourage the population to discover what trafficking is, and to get our artsy people in our community to depict what it looks like, and it will help bring awareness to this issue that is actually happening in Belize, and start more conversations.
And if someone's at a home, I can't say they're home right now, but at a home or in a room and has heard this conversation and thinks, this is what's happening to me. I don't have control of my life. What can you tell them to do right now?
Call 911. Yes, I can't emphasize it enough. If you call 911 and tell them you believe that you're being trafficked and you need someone from the Ethics Police Unit to come and check, there will be a response.
Okay.
Or if you want to preferably call DHS and tell them DHS works closely with the Ethics Police Unit, and they will also respond.
And you will not be arrested for
You will not be arrested, no.
For sex work, for anything else.
Because at the end of the day, we want to protect people that are being exploited. People are not property, so maybe the trafficker brought them across the border illegally, but they did not do that on their own intent or their own decision. They were forced, and so we don't want to continue to perpetrate this thing and continue to control them and force them. So we want to, our intention is to protect and put them in a safe space.
All right.
Okay. All right, so with that, we'll take another break and we will be right back. So stay tuned.
We kind of move on and on with this.
No, honestly.
Yeah. No.
Hey son, how was your first day at Sixth Form?
Really cool. It was great to see my friends, and I really love my teachers.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your first day, but I'll be back from Corozal next week.
It's okay, Dad. I can't wait to see you. Oh, and please remember, I still have some books I need to purchase.
Ah, yes. Let me e-cash you that right now. Money has been sent. I add a little extra cash just for you.
Whoa, Dad. Thanks. Got it.
You're welcome, sir.
Download the eCash app today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257. eCash, the future is here.
The Social Security Board, in collaboration with the Labor Department, takes this opportunity to remind insured persons of the requirements for compensation when on sick leave. Any employee who has worked with an employer for at least 2 months is entitled to 16 working days of sick leave with full pay every year. This is how it works. Upon approval of a sickness or injury benefit claim by SSB, 80% of the employee's weekly insurable earnings is paid as a Social Security benefit, and the difference in the employee's salary is paid by the employer. This is to ensure that the employee does not suffer any loss of wages when ill. After 16 days, compensation for sick leave is paid as a Social Security benefit only. Some conditions apply. This message is brought to you by the Social Security Board and the Labor Department. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Introducing Edam A cheese, the A+ Dutch cheese to hit the Belizean market. As the name says, it is of A-class quality, the best Dutch cheese in Belize. Edam A cheese is creamier, less salty, and simply more delicious. Don't be left out. Get your A cheese at a supermarket near you. A cheese, exclusively distributed by Unitex Company Limited. Call us at 610-3626 or 610-8910. Follow us on Facebook at Unitex Belize.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Smart continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
Welcome back. We have another exciting segment for you. We have two Belizeans who are doing some amazing stuff with the Air Force. We have with us online via Zoom Steven Cabral, who is a member of the U.S. Air Force, and we have Renan Beiser, who is a member of the Belize Defense Force. Both young. Well, I know that Renan is on his way back to Belize at this time.
Literally.
And so, literally, he will be speaking with us from a hotel room in Dallas. And Steven, he is currently enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and has been enlisted for 2 years and a half. So, good morning, guys. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. So, Renan, let's start with you. Tell us a bit about what you're coming from. I understand you are a part of a training. Tell us about that training and how did that go?
Well, the training is a part of a partnership with Belize and Louisiana that sends officer cadets to attend officer candidate school in the United States. I am one of 22 past candidates that successfully completed the program, and this sets me up to be a second lieutenant in the Belize Defense Force.
Wow, wow, that sounds like a huge accomplishment. What was some of the challenges or some of the things that you had to undergo during this course?
A bunch of physical activities that had to be met. Room for failure. You couldn't have failed anything during the course, via it be theoretical or physical events. It was 8 weeks long, comprised of 3 phases. Phase 1 was like to break you down and build you up. Phase 2 and 3 was mentorship in order to be leaders in the armed forces.
So we're talking about a lot of physical work?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The U.S. Army, it's really physical, and they love their waist.
Yeah. So let's hear from Stephen for a moment. Stephen, you were enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. Tell us about your journey.
All right. Yeah, for sure. I've been enlisted for 2.5 years now. My journey all started back in April of 2019 when I decided to make the decision to join the Air Force. I gave it a lot of research, and I was like questioning all the different factors and variables of myself being in the Air Force. And then eventually I decided to just give it a shot, and turns out I've not regretted it, and to this day I've not regretted making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is it that you do as a member of the U.S. Air Force?
So my specialty in the Air Force is called a financial management technician. So basically what we do is we just handle all the base finances for all our military members that are here stationed at my Air Force base. Mm-hmm. And that varies from giving them advice about their military pay, giving them advice about their benefits that they have in the Air Force. If there's any kind of discrepancies on their pay record, stuff like that, we make those corrections for the members.
Yeah. Do you and Renan probably argue or debate about which military organization is the toughest of both?
Hands down, I would not debate with him, because I know from the Army is definitely a different breed.
Yeah.
When it comes to physical training. Yeah. The Air Force, more so, like I'd say more like an intermediate training course. We do have our fair share of training that we do. However, if you decide to specialize in that training field that requires that, then you will be required to do that. So it all depends on your specialty of what you decide to do in the Air Force.
Yeah. When you think of the opportunity that Renan has had to get training in the U.S., I think it's important to talk about how this relationship strengthens what we have here. So let's get your perspective, Stephen, and then Renan.
Yeah, sure. It is a big move by Renan to actually opportunity to do that is a big step. As a matter of fact, I am making my way towards that step. I'm going to officer training school to become a commissioned officer. Currently, I am enlisted. So therefore, there's a difference in responsibilities.
Yeah.
As to an officer compared to an enlisted airman. So big respect to Renan on doing that.
Yeah. And Renan, what do you think will be the summary of your experience when the fellow members of the BDF ask you, should they, shouldn't they? What would you say to them?
Definitely, if they have the opportunity to come and to be a part of this training, I would definitely recommend it. It all leads to being a great leader and a great officer. The Belize Defense Force is full of excellent leaders in our organogram, and we should have leaders that exude the characteristics to be a great, excellent leader, and also humble enough to actually follow and listen to your subordinates. So this all ties up into just being the best officer you can be, and to reach the pinnacle of officership in the Belize Defense Force, or even in the Air Force. I would like to see Stephen one day have a 1 or 2 star, or however their ranks work, but I want him to reach the top, and he can get there being so ambitious of the little time that I have had to talk to him.
Yeah, I love this brotherhood that you guys have, just pushing each other to do better.
Right.
It's kind of like an automatic thing that once you military member, especially both of us coming from Belize, it's kind of natural for us to gravitate towards each other and wanting each other to do the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are you, Renan, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 21 years old.
Wow. And how long have you been a member of the Belize Defense Force?
I joined the Belize Defense Force Volunteer Battalion last year, January.
Okay.
And I've been in ever since.
Okay. So
under the guidance of Major Oliveira, I was on an 8-month officer cadet developmental course that would have subsequently set me up for success.
All right. So how does it work in terms of you, as from a volunteer, are you now moving into sort of an official role when you get back to Belize? Is that how that works?
Yes, I will be a 2nd lieutenant in the volunteer battalion, but I will also aspire to be a regular if I can. I would say.
Right. Right.
Well, it sounds like you came out of a rigorous training,
Definitely.
so you should be more ready now than ever.
Right.
Yes, I should.
Let me just backtrack. I want to ask a question as young men who grew up in Belize and talk about what the military represented for you. Was it a professional opportunity kind of, or was it kind of this dream of being a guardian for your country?
It would boil down to I love the military. My father was in the military. My late brother was in the military. And he was who I looked up to the most when it comes to professionalism, daring. Like, he was my role model. So it was natural for me to, when the opportunity came and I finished the university, that I would go into the Belize Defense Force and more so go in as an officer.
Stephen, is that how you saw the military and military work as well?
Yeah, for sure. It all from a young age. I always admired the idea of service, and it was also something that my father liked for us to do. My father is a huge role model in my life, Stephen Cabral Sr. And he convinced pretty much my brother. So just to add, I also have a younger brother that's in the Air Force as well. So it's 2 of us. He is stationed out in Colorado. So it's 2 of us from the family that's pretty much partaking in the Air Force in this chapter in our lives. And yet it's been a great journey since, and I have no regrets so far.
Renan, do you see being a member of the BDF, speaking with your peers, is it something that you see your peers also, young men around you, is it a job, a service that they also desire? How high do you think the demand is to be a part of the force?
Well, most of my friends that I actually hang out with want to come into the Belize Defense Force as officers. It has benefits, but more so for me, I get to help other people.
Yeah.
I also want to enable success on the bigger picture. So whatever I can do to help and to serve the country of Belize is more than enough in reward for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gentlemen, it was, today was an opportunity to talk to two young men who have set out their path in the military, in the U.S. Air Force and here at the BDF, and hear of the work that you've been doing. What do you say to other young men, and I know quite a few, who are interested in joining the military? What would you say they can start doing today to set themselves up on the right path?
Well, to join the Belize Defense Force, I would say to those young men, get your body right, but most importantly, get your mind right. The biggest challenge will happen between your two ears. Your body can take much more than you give it credit for, but the mind battle is a battle to be won. That's where most young men fail. That's where most young men need to improve on in order to achieve success in joining the Belize Defense Force.
Strong words. And for you, Stephen?
Absolutely. I'm definitely in agreement with Renan. Yes, you have to be in a certain physical condition to complete the course, but more so the mental aspect of it is very important as well. You have to, I'd advise them to just understand the word sacrifice and how important that is. Also, you'd have to have some sort of discipline, because no matter how you try, you will it, and you will find yourself under some serious circumstances. And also be ready to lead. The Air Force, and I'm pretty sure Renan's officer training, it molds you into a leader. So where you are required to lead by example, respect yourself and your peers around you. Basically, just refuse to partake in inappropriate behavior, even under peer pressure, stuff like that. And lastly, failure. Do not be afraid to fail. And a lot of people in life are pretty much discouraged because they don't believe in themselves. But at the end of the day, failure is one of the main ingredients to the path of success. So do not be afraid to fail. Take the chance and just turn your failures into lessons. And you should definitely be on your way to achieve any goal that you set out for yourself.
That's right.
That's right.
Well,
I wore my camouflage button up today specifically for you guys. And so thank you. And Renan, safe travels back to Belize. And Stephen, all the best as you continue to excel in the U.S. Air Force.
Thank you so much.
All right.
With that, we'll take a final break and we will be right back for a wrap-up segment.
Is always with you, from live TV, sports, and on-demand titles. Choose your plan today. Plans start as low as $15 per month. My TV, entertainment, anytime, anywhere.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun with eCash. We can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments, simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
Bundle the fastest, most reliable, unlimited broadband in Belize with your prepaid or postpaid mobile plan or Netflix. You can bundle your broadband with your prepaid and enjoy 50% off all national calls, plus get SMS and data. Paid plans? Then bundle with any speed and pay only $25 extra monthly to enjoy unlimited smart-to-smart calls, plus 500 minutes, plus 6,300 megabytes of data. Stream unlimited HD movies and TV shows with our broadband, plus the Netflix add-on for only $30 monthly, and enjoy streaming on your laptop, TV, phone, or tablet. Visit a smart showroom near you to sign up or upgrade to the bundle that's right for you. Smart, bringing people together.
And we're back.
Yeah, well, another exciting show.
Yeah.
Just got done with the two military personnel. These guys, one from the Belize Defense Force, the other from the U.S. Air Force, both Belizeans.
Yeah.
It's a proud moment for us to be able to see the achievements these young men have accomplished. But we definitely started the show on a great note.
No, I think it's been a really informative show. Today we spoke with representatives of Unibam and Our Circle as August 10th is the anniversary of the ruling on the Section 53 case where it was ruled unconstitutional. It's a very big achievement for the LGBT community, and that is why they celebrate Pride Week this week. So 5 years ago, it was a whole different celebration. Now they have a week of activities to be able to celebrate amongst each other and with others, of course, just the fact that they are moving towards getting the equal access to their rights as they do deserve. So we had Amir and we had Daricia, and we want to say thank you for joining us for that part. If you want to find out more about Pride Week activities, you can go to their individual Facebook page and you can be able to find that list of activities.
And in our second segment, we had that conversation on human trafficking and trafficking in person. I learned this morning, and forgive me that they're both the same. I also got some information on their campaign that they're launching called People Not Property. I found out how I could be of assistance, ways that I could help, and the challenges that are still being faced where human trafficking and trafficking in persons are concerned. In Belize, it's an issue, and so it's good to have conversations with organizations like these. We had Ms. Juana Maria from ATIPS, Focal Point, and we had Karen Kane, the Director of the Youth Enhancement Services. So we also want to say a huge thank you to both women for bringing us such an informative discussion and session.
And the ATIPS Council is filled with a lot of people who work very hard on being able to protect and prevent and, of course, to persecute persons who are involved in human trafficking. So it is ongoing work. But the key part is that the wider society, we are able to see, identify, and report when we see cases of trafficking in persons. And of course, the key part here is don't get involved, don't ask questions, just make the report so that the relevant authorities can do their investigation. And all you have to do is call Crime Stoppers or call 911.
You know, it's such a huge discussion, and it's not a topic that is discussed largely among peer groups, we don't sit down and talk about trafficking in person, but it's such a huge issue, and it's affecting so many. It's a vulnerable population. I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed more.
Absolutely. And then we want to thank Stephen and Renan for joining us this morning, talking about their military journeys. They're both, Renan is on his way back to Belize. He's a member of the BDF, and he just completed his officer training in the U.S. And Stephen is in the U.S. Air Force, and talking about kind of the support that they have for each other and also in advancing their careers.
Yeah, well,
that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelize. Remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes
and start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind, and your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.